Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Batwoman Season 3 review series. And today I am going to be talking about episode 4, Antifreeze, which I have just finished watching. And this episode did get off to a bit of a slow start, but it picked up in the second half. And I would say that this episode was okay. Not the greatest, but not the worst. It was okay. It was watchable. So, as we saw at the end of the last episode, we saw Mary was abducted, if that's the right word to call it. Mary was kind of pulled away by some branches, which looked to be like Poison Ivy's handiwork. And this episode pretty much picked up where we left off at the end of that, where, as I mentioned, Mary was kind of taken away by some branches and pulled into a bush. But for the most part, this episode didn't really concentrate on any Poison Ivy references. I think we probably got about maybe one or two Poison Ivy references. This episode mostly concentrated on the Mr. Freeze aspects of the character. Even though Mr. Freeze didn't actually appear in this episode, his handiwork and presence was felt all throughout this episode. And as I said, this episode was okay. Not the best, but certainly not the worst. This episode mainly seemed to have concentrated on the newly found sibling relationship between Marcus and Ryan, who have just found out they are both brother and sister. And that seemed to mainly be the main focus of this episode. And although that stuff was okay, I didn't really care a lot for that. I would say, once again, the person who carried this episode was, of course, Alice, played wonderfully as always by Rachel Scarsden, and she just owned every scene she was in. Even though she wasn't the main focus of this episode, to me, she just carries it, and so far, she is carrying the show. No disrespect to Javicia Leslie, she's great, but I feel Rachel Scarsden is carrying Batwoman at the moment, and this episode will go down as probably average for me, hence the reference to okay. So, with that all said, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 4, Antifreeze. So, this episode starts off with a man trying to experiment on people by reanimating frozen corpses with Mr. Freeze's cryogenics technology. And this episode gets off to a very horrific start where we see a victim slowly get up and just falls on the floor and just shatters into 1,000 pieces. Very horrific start. So I thought that was a good opening. So then we learn later on, thanks to Marcus, Ryan is named among Gotham's 30 under 30 list and is invited to a gala where Ryan gets help from Charlie, who is Wayne's head of publicity, as she attends the event and tries to deal with Marcus, who wants to spend more time with her. We then see Sophie shows up to the event with Jordan, who's also being honoured. Sophie reveals that she had a somewhat romantic dream about Ryan, and Jordan suggests going after her. Jordan later gets kidnapped by the man we saw at the beginning, who is conducting the experiments, and Sophie and Ryan find her cryogenically frozen. Yeah, this stuff here, I thought this was quite good. I thought the Mr. Freeze aspects of the episode was quite good. Mary wakes up surrounded by the poison ivy vines in Gotham Park as she tries to tell Ryan and Luke what's happened, and they just blow her off. Now, this I would have liked to have seen a little bit more explored, but I've got a feeling that we are going to learn more about what actually happened with Mary. We then see Alice wakes up back in Arkham Asylum and continues to be paranoid about nanobots in her system, and she hallucinates even more about getting letters from her dad, Jacob Kane, as well as potentially killing a guard. Alice goes to Mary and helps solve what's happened with Jordan, as she was frozen because she was investigating the Black Glove Society. Nice. A shady organisation that was going to unmask at the gala. As Sophie and Alice try to find Jordan's evidence on Black Glove, Alice continues to hallucinate even further, and the Black Glove Society then shows up and ties them both up, almost killing them. We then see Ryan arrives as Batwoman and saves them. Mary, meanwhile, figures out how to use plants to save Jordan. Jordan is unfrozen and recuperates, and Alice tells Ryan, Sophie, and Mary of her condition that is being made worse by Arkham, suggesting they convince Renee Montoya to remove her out of Arkham and be babysat by Sophie. We then see Jada tips off Vesper Fairchild that Ryan has been transferring Wayne funding illegally, money that is really going to use to fight crime as Batman. Vesper publicly breaks the news in the middle of the gala, which causes more trouble for Ryan. Later, Luke pulls some strings to cover the illegal funds as a contract with Argus, but Ryan is warned that she and Luke might lose Wayne Enterprises in a hostile takeover by her own mum. Ryan asks Marcus if Jada is going to take over Wayne Enterprises, and they suggest working together to stop her. And then we see Luke gets Lucius' AI to work again, only to be told that he isn't ready to be Batwing and put on the suit just yet. We then see at the end the man with the black glove meets with Jada, giving her the new formula of Mr. Freeze's toxin, and she reveals that she wants to use the toxin on Marcus, and that's how we end episode 4, and that wraps up my review. Overall, an okay episode. I thought the Mr. Freeze aspects were quite good, and like I said at the beginning, Rachel Scarsden continues to just carry this show, and as I said, she just owns every scene she's in as Alice, and to me, she's the best thing about the show. And Luke being told he's not ready to be Batwing just yet is interesting. So hopefully we'll see more on that story be developed over the course of season 3. But by and large, I would say this episode was okay. Not the best, but not the worst. It was just okay. Hopefully episode 5 will be a little bit more better and certainly be some more things to get your teeth into. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What did you think of episode 4? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on the Mr. Freeze aspects of this episode? Did you enjoy that? And also, when do you think we are going to see Poison Ivy make her Arrowverse debut? And also, what do you think happened to Mary when she was taken by Poison Ivy's branches? And also, what was that thing on her arm? Do you think we'll learn more about that in future episodes? And also, what do you think Vesper's plans are for wanting to take over Wayne Enterprises? And also, can Marcus be trusted as well? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Batwoman Season 3 review series, where I am going to be talking about Episode 5, which I'm hoping is going to be a lot better than this one. Not saying that Episode 4 was terrible, but it was okay. So hopefully Episode 5 will be much better. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, thanks for listening.